Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. I thought I would do a little bit more of a fun, lighthearted one because it feels like I'm either talking about very difficult business concepts or venting about how stressful my last year's been. So if you haven't checked out the real story behind why we sold our house, I will link that episode in the show notes for you. That would be a good place to start. But today's topic is going to be things that you need to make traveling, Airbnb, motel living easier with 4 young children. This is coming from practical, lived, unexpected experience with us in the last couple weeks, but more of like a fun, lighthearted, informative tone because I've never tried to do this before, and it's a little bit more challenging than I expected. And I've learned some things that hopefully other parents can use if you also need to travel with your little ones. So if you're new around here and this is one of the first few episodes you're listening to, hi, I am Brittany. I am a Canadian mom of 4, almost 5, small business owner. We live in Ontario and we have lived at our house pretty much exclusively since having children. So this was the first time we've ever really gone anywhere with them. We didn't really do a lot of overnight stays. We occasionally went camping with my parents, but we stayed at their trailer. We've been to a cottage, but like that's basically just a different fully finished house. So this was like our first experience in a motel slash Airbnb that was not intentionally designed for children and that I also didn't have time to properly pack for because we thought we were supposed to be staying with my parents. So some of the things that I found to make things easier, and this depends a little bit on whether you're staying in a motel or whether you're staying in an Airbnb. So I'll try and differentiate some of that. Oh, I should tell you how old my kids are. That would be helpful. So my oldest is Talia. She's 5. Rhea is 4. Rhett is 2.5, I guess. Well, I guess Talia's almost 6. Rhea's 4.5. Rhett is 2.5. And Luca is almost a year. I have a birthday party that I need to plan. And I say that those half years, I say the half years because I feel like when children are this young, an extra 6 months of physical and emotional development can really be a big difference. So like, I would never say that I'm 30 and a half because the difference between 30 and a 30 and a half is really nothing as an adult, but it's a lot for a toddler. So we have 5 very, very young children, and I've learned some things throughout this process. Learning number 1, when you are a family of our size, aka 2 adults and 4 children, a total of 6 individuals, it makes getting a hotel room very challenging because according to fire codes, motels and hotels are only supposed to allow 4 individuals in a room, aka 2 adults and 2 children. So we actually had a really difficult time getting a room in the first place because they didn't want to let this many of us stay in a room. And I was like, I'm not separating our family into 2 rooms. Also, ow, expensive. And they didn't have like suite options, which is what you need to actually get. So there's like dedicated rooms and then common spaces. So fire code will allow you to have more people in that because it's more square footage. But the typical hotel motel options that are available in St. Thomas means that it's really like at most 2 queen to king beds a room. And fire code for that is 4 individuals. So they had to like make exceptions to let all of us stay together in a room. I was like, but there's so little. I was like, I'm sleeping 3 of them on a bed and 1 of them in a playpen. I was like, room size is not an issue. They're like, that's not really the problem. It's legally from a fire code perspective. We can't do that. And I was like, oh, goody. So glad that I'm learning this while presently having left my only mode of accommodation. Like we had closed on the house that day and I was calling around to try and figure out where the hell we were going that night. I was like, okay. So then we finally found someone that was like, no, it's okay because there's so little, we'll make an exception. And then they just put like a special note in our account that there are additional people staying in the room for fire code regulation. So that if there ever was a fire, they also know that they need to pull 6 people out of the room, not just 4. I was like, I appreciate that. Thank you. So that was one of the really big things that I learned. And this was Comfort Inn that we were staying at in St. Thomas, who were able to accommodate us. I can't guarantee that other motels would be able to do the same thing, but they did let us do it. So a couple things that are great about motel living typically includes breakfast in the morning. That is a godsend. When you have a very tiny mini refrigerator, for very consistently hungry humans, and no way to cook them anything. So at least it covered breakfast, and then we did kind of take out for lunch, or I would order hot meals through the school. Had a lot of pizza and pita pit that week. Um, excuse me. Well, I guess twice because pizza's Monday and pita pit's Wednesday. Um, and then my mom did start helping us make lunches because I was like, I have no knife, no cutting board, barely a refrigerator. I was like, I literally cannot send them with food. I was like, I would have to go to the store every morning and get them Lunchables. Like, this is not very nutritious. She's like, it's cool. I'll make them, just pick them up. And he was like, okay, cool. So my mom did help with lunches a little bit, and then we ate takeout every night for dinner, which is why, as much as it was lovely to try a bunch of new restaurants in St. Thomas, you may have seen my stories sharing some of the food that we tried. Lots of great, really good food in St. Thomas, from like small based businesses too. So if we were trying to support more local mom and pop shops rather than just like the big chains. So like the Hungry Twist is a great one if you're around here. I had a shawarma salad from Greek and Go, which was good. We like Buzz Bites. That one was really good too. What were some of the other ones that I tried? There were like several, so it was hard to keep track, but there were a couple more that had really good food. So we would do that for dinner. And oftentimes it was a lot of pizza and burgers because toddlers are picky. Um, but that's okay. We survived. But motels have breakfast, which is huge check mark. A little bit of a ding for not having a kitchen though. Airbnbs are a little bit better for that because they're houses. So now that we're staying in an Airbnb this week, we've been able to cook, which is a godsend. I love it. I love the dishes. Don't necessarily love the cooking, but I love being able to do that and not having to eat so much takeout. Um, so they also are really great for having blackout curtains, which was something that I had not even considered, nor would I have packed anyway, because they were long since washed and packed in the storage unit before I knew that we were staying in a motel. So wouldn't have brought those anyway. But blackout curtains really helped my kids sleep better. So they slept pretty well in the motel, all things considered. Grace and I on the one bed, and then the three kiddos on the other, and then Luca in the playpen. Actually, at one point in time, the motel did give us a second playpen. So we had Rhett stay in the second playpen. The challenge with motel rooms, specifically at that size, is that by the time you have 1 to 2 playpens floor, along with all of your luggage, because we definitely did not bring enough hangers to hang anything up, there was like no walking anywhere in the room. I felt like I was living in a closet, like Harry Potter under the stairs, guys, with 4 children. That's not a good feeling. It was not. It was not ideal from that perspective at all. So yeah, okay, cool. My kids slept great because there were blackout curtains and they had a playpen that I didn't need to worry about bringing. And breakfast was cool, but like that was the extent of my benefits of staying in a motel. And I would not encourage that for extended periods of stays for families of our size in the future, unless you're in a suite. If you can get a suite, then that's probably different, probably way more expensive, but probably different. One thing that I also learned throughout this process, and this was learnings from my mom, thankfully, is that when you tell them that you're staying for an extended period of time, typically you get a better rate. They give you a discount when they know that you're staying for like a week, which is awesome. And my dad learned this working in construction because oftentimes he would have to travel like 3, 4 hours away and he wasn't coming back every night and, spending 6 hours driving and 10 hours working because they work ridiculous hours in construction. So he would have to stay in places like Niagara and all of that when he was there for work. So he found out that you could get discounted rates when you're like, yo, I'm going to be here Monday to Friday, which is also typically when motels are not necessarily as busy, especially in touristy areas. So they'll usually give you a discounted rate for staying there and like filling rooms and giving them money during their off times. So we saved a little bit of money when we did that at the motel, which was nice, but it was still very expensive. Very expensive and not really functional for us, which is why when we moved out of the motel, so we stayed 2 nights in St. Thomas, then we went and got a motel in Chatham so we could be closer to the house, and then we did that for a night or two, and then we came back to St. Thomas and stayed Sunday to Friday. So we did like a full week and a bit in a motel. Different motels, but motels still nonetheless. And even within that, I've noticed that there's a lot of differences in motel layouts. So like the one in Chatham, the sink was outside the bathroom, but when you tried to turn the light on, the light for the bathroom was also the light for above the sink. So we just like couldn't turn the bathroom light on at all after the kids went to bed because it was like right in the room with us. And it also turned the fan on. I was like, "What the fuck?" So you'd turn the light on and the fan on, and all of a sudden it was ridiculously loud and it would wake everyone up. So Grace and I were like going pee and showering with the flashlight on our cell phone. I was like, "This sucks." So that was not super ideal. However, that room was bigger and there was more floor space. So, it's a little bit of a toss up, really, depending on the motel that you're at. Um, so just, things to consider. Maybe tour a room, ask what they look like when you're considering those. The Comfort Inn was a little bit better. Bathroom stuff was contained to the bathroom, so you could actually use the lighting while you were there, but there wasn't one floor space. Yeah, so we did motel and then we stayed. I guess we did a little bit more because we were also in Chatham again the following weekend. And then we came back and on Sunday night we got an Airbnb for a week and a half because it was booked. We couldn't stay longer. So we're at an Airbnb right now. So things that you should bring with you if you are staying at a motel would be a foldable high chair. Most of the motels have high chairs, but on the off chance there's a lot of kids eating breakfast that day, you definitely want a high chair for your little ones. And I saw it when we were out at a restaurant one night eating dinner. And it was like this just like really small foldable little one that you like screwed onto the side of the table. I was like, oh my God, that is brilliant. I want one of those. And I'm going to try and figure out where they got it. I forget what they told me because I did ask. I 100% interrupted their dinner to ask them where they got that high chair. Because the one that we've been lugging with us everywhere we go is like the IKEA ones, and they're great for our house because they're really stable. They don't tip and they're easy to clean, but they are bulky. They do not fold well at all. So they're hard to travel with. I don't recommend that. So I would get a good foldable high chair to bring with you, even if you're staying at a motel, because sometimes, like I said, the high chair wasn't available for us. And also make sure that you get like a really good bib, like one of the silicone ones that has the, like, pouch on the bottom, because I always felt super guilty leaving breakfast in the morning because there was food everywhere. Because Luca has basically been baby-led weaning. That's more or less what we've been doing. I've kinda done it with some of my other kids, and I like it, and also just I find it very infuriating trying to feed a small little human with a spoon because all they wanna do is either swat the spoon away or grab it and hold it and never give it back, and I just find it so ridiculously messy. I was like, "No, not doing this time." So we did baby led weaning with him. So he eats food, like, quite a lot of it, like, pretty consistently. He's actually kind of weaning himself off the bottle right now, which is a little weird since he's only about a year, but, um I was like, food is everywhere. Food is absolutely everywhere when he eats breakfast at the motel in the morning. So I was able to scrounge through one of the boxes at my mom's and get a bib partway through, which helped. So that helped contain some of the mess, but there was still a lot of stuff on the floor and I felt really bad. And there were no brooms around. So like I couldn't really clean it myself. So it was just the motel staff that had to come and do it. And like I'm sure they're used to it, sort of. I don't think a lot of kids stay at motels, but like I still felt guilty. So a foldable high chair and a bib would definitely help you in a motel perspective. And then, regardless of where you stay, you need lots of snacks because I kid you not, we would go to breakfast in the morning. And then an hour later, when we were needing to like leave to take the kids to school, all I can hear is, Mommy, I'm hungry. What can we eat? I was like, it's barely been an hour and you ate 3 times as much at the motel buffet as you usually would at our house. How? How are you hungry? So bring snacks, lots of snacks, and that will be a godsend for you. So those were some of like my suggestions for motel living. And again, we were only there for about a week. Definitely do not bring anything that you don't need though. That is another really key takeaway from this perspective. Cause like I said, by the time you get clothes and duffel bags for 4 humans and 2 adults, 4 mini humans and 2 adults who need like 3 sets of clothing a day because they make messes, they spill things, they get dirty, in general, you just magically have to send extra clothes to school and daycare because they're out. You need like 3 weeks worth of clothes with you for each of the mini humans and then adults. Also, motels don't have laundry, at least not that I experienced. So, trying to then haul all of that laundry to a laundromat to wash it was more expensive than I realized because I have not actually used a laundromat since I was like super little. And I did not know that it was gonna cost me, like, almost $30 to do a week's worth of laundry. I was like, "This is not affordable. Who does this?" Um, and we didn't even have to do bedding either, like, it would've been more expensive if I had to do bedding. That was just, like, clothes. It was just, like, a week's worth of clothes for us. And then I think I might have done like a spare set of sheets or something that we were taking with us for something. No, that was a different time that I did that. Um, anyway, oh, it was bedding because Grayson stayed the weekend in Chatham last weekend. We just bought him a tent and an air mattress, and he stayed in the house so that we didn't have to pay for another motel in addition to the Airbnb that the kids and I were staying at in St. Thomas. So I just went to the thrift store and I bought a cheap set of sheets and a cheap comforter, and I washed those at the laundromat. It's like, yuck, expensive. Um, and it's also on the towels because the hotel does towels too. I was like, it would be like $50 a week for me to do all of this laundry, and half of it came back wet. I was like, I swear it was dry when I was at the laundromat. Why is it wet now? Anyway, um, so just prepare for that. If you're staying in a motel for an extended period of time, plan to go to a laundromat, and it will cost you more money than you realize, and will take you more time than you think it will. Um, yeah, so that's some tips for motel living. Don't bring anything you don't need. If, however, you are staying at an Airbnb, there are things that I have now learned that you should know. And maybe you know this already, but this was our first time actually staying at an Airbnb. Technically, I was an Airbnb host, but that's like a totally different ballgame because I know exactly what my house has and what my house doesn't have, and what they're allowed to do and what they are not allowed to do because it's my house and I make the rules. Trying to stay in someone else's house is like weird, very weird. So we had a really hard time finding a place I bet again all of us could stay because most Airbnbs are set up for like 4 people, not 6. So, I mean, technically, I kind of had to lie on the Airbnb intake form, and I told them that I had 2 toddlers and 2 infants, otherwise we never would have found a place. And I was like, "Brad's really tiny. He's like newly 2-ish, ish." Otherwise, like I said, none of the listings would have shown up if I said that I actually had 3 toddlers and 1 infant. So just, things to consider. But the host did ask for the names and ages of all of the people before we moved in for insurance purposes. They must have had to have got special insurance to have the little ones in the house. I'm not really sure about that. So she did know that Brett was over 2, but um, it at least helped us find a place. So the place we're staying at is a 2-bedroom, like 1 floor. It's got a queen size bed for us, and then it's got 2 single beds in the second room. So we have Luca in the playpen. Obviously, we've been traveling with the playpen. And then Rhett is actually sleeping on a mattress on the floor that we brought from my mom's house because all of our mattresses ended up at my mom's. So it's like the only thing that she really took because she didn't have space because all of her stuff is displaced while she does her basement renovation. But the mattresses didn't fit in the storage unit or the U-Haul, so they had to bring them over to her house in the truck. So I was like, well, that's actually kind of convenient because we now need that for Rhett to sleep on. Otherwise, we probably would have went out and bought a second playpen so that he could have stayed in that. But anyway, so that's kind of our living situation right there. But a couple things that I didn't know is we ended up bringing Aurora after we had moved in. I wasn't planning on it. But then my mom was like, maybe she'd like to see you because it's been like a week and a half and like we're not really at my mom's. And she's been kind of like confused as to what's going on and why she's no longer living with us. So I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. The Airbnb said it was pet friendly, like no big deal, I'll just bring her over. Well, we got a notification from the host a couple days later going, you have a dog that you didn't tell me about, and now you have to pay us an extra $128. I was like, what? I was like, it said pet friendly. Nowhere in the listing did it say there was an additional fee for the dog, or I would not have brought her. Then I was like asking if it was like a per day rate or like a flat fee. And she's like, it's a flat fee. I was like, so if I stayed for one night and brought my dog, it's an extra $128? Why? So I don't really understand that, but it is what it is. So she's still here with us. You probably saw her on the couch in the background. Maybe you can hear her wandering around because I had to pay the fee regardless. So I guess she might as well stay. Um, so live and learn about that one. Don't bring your pets, or at least ask if there's like an additional fee because when you're doing the like checkout. And again, I didn't do this because I wasn't planning on bringing her, but I went back to test it after when she told me there was this fee because I was like, I read through the description, like it was nowhere. But like you have to add that there's a dog, and like that's another frustration that I have with Airbnb. Just to put that out there. So when I was doing my initial search, it's like, where do you want to stay? And I was like, St. Thomas, and like, what are your date ranges? So I picked those, and it's like, who's in your party? And in that specific, like, initial box, there's nowhere to say that you have a pet. It's like it only let me add, like, the adults and humans unless I'm, like, totally blind and missed it. But, like, when you actually go to the individual listing to book it, it pre-populates all of that information from your initial search. So I never checked it again, but that's where there was a spot to indicate how many pets you were bringing. And then it adds an additional fee to the checkout. But it's not like how it does the breakdown. It's like, this is the cost per night, and then this is the cleaning fee, and this is the HST, and then this is the Airbnb service fee. There's no fourth line for pet fee. So I still didn't know that. You just like magically have to like math it out, being like, if there's no pet, this is the price. And if you add pet, then this is the price. That's how they charge it. It was like, that should be illegal. That's basically a hidden fee. If it's not like clearly stipulated in the description or there's not a dedicated line item for that, you shouldn't be able to charge me this fee. But I was like, really don't feel like arguing because she's been very nice, very accommodating, and it's technically not her fault how the Airbnb website is coded, but that is frustrating. So anyway, so that happened and we're here now with that. But things that we needed to bring. So this was a requirement for her and probably her insurance. Once she sorted that out, was that we had to bring baby gates. So one for the top of her stairs and then one for the top of her deck outside. And I was like, okay, no big deal. Typically baby gates would not be something that I would think to travel with. Again, we haven't really done much traveling, but bring baby gates if you're staying at an Airbnb because you may need them unless the host is like very clearly stated in the listing that the house is family safe or whatever, because that was her big thing. Originally, she declined our reservation request saying that the house wasn't set up for children. And I was like, it's cool, we'll bring like everything because we'd already been staying at the motel. I was like, I've got playpens, I've got high chairs. I was like, we've got water bottles and sippy cups and like all of that stuff. I was like, it's no big deal. Like we have everything that we need. We just like physically need a house to stay in. And she's like, okay, so you'll bring baby gates. And I was like, hadn't considered that one, but yes, I will go on Marketplace right now and purchase some. So that is exactly what I did. And we came with two baby gates, got those all set up. No big deal. And she was nice enough that she came back the next day and dropped off some cups and plates, like toddler plastic stuff that we could use, which was good. Gave us a few extra pieces that way. So, like I said, she was really accommodating. But those are some things that you may want to consider bringing with you too, because not all Airbnbs would have them. And like the girls are old enough that they could use the China stuff, and it's okay. And it's not like real China, but like you know what I mean, like the actual adult stuff, and it would have been okay. But definitely not. Definitely not for Red. Wouldn't have trusted him with that stuff. And Luca pretty much just eats off of his high chair tray anyway, so it wasn't a big deal for that. But those would be some additional things that would be helpful. Still definitely recommend, in addition to baby gates, that you bring a high chair because Airbnbs are usually not equipped with them. So whether you're dragging your big ass IKEA high chair with you, like we did, or whether you're getting one of those foldable ones that you can just screw onto the table, either or, bring a high chair with you. Definitely still bring your bib, potentially some like kid safe cutlery and like snack containers. One of the big things that I noticed too, um, even just for like us cooking here, 'cause it's a new Airbnb as well. They've hosted other times in other locations, but this is only like their third reservation in this house. She didn't really have containers. So we're like cooking and then we have leftovers and I don't really have anywhere to put them. So I had to go out to the store and buy like Ziploc bags and stuff. And we've just kind of been storing things in there. We did pick up a couple containers from my mom's house. Um, but that wasn't something that I would have ever really thought to bring with you. So if you're staying at an Airbnb and you're planning on doing a lot of cooking, I would confirm with the host if there is some of that stuff available. If not, that's something that you'll likely want to bring with you just to make your stay a little bit easier. But there was like laundry here. We did bring our own laundry soap and like all of our own bathroom products and stuff, which is great. But there was some of that here as well. I don't know if that's typical Airbnb style, but it was nice to have some of that. What else would I recommend bringing? Oh, yeah. So in terms of sleep, sleep is really big for me. It doesn't matter where we are. I need my children to sleep because I need my sleep. Still being very pregnant, 21 weeks pregnant, in fact. Blackout curtains, Airbnbs, apparently not equipped with those. I guess it's not something that I would have ever really considered before I had children. So I kind of don't blame them for that. But bring your own blackout curtains and hang them up in the bedrooms because that has made nap times and bedtime so much easier for us. Because the first few days we didn't have them. I had to go and get them from my mom later. And the kids didn't sleep very well those 2 nights. They just kept fighting bedtime. "It's not dark out, mommy. The sun's still up." And then they would wake up ridiculously early in the morning. And like we already get up ridiculously early in the morning to drive Grayson to work, but I don't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. So blackout curtains help them sleep better. So bring those potentially for your own bedroom too if you want them, but definitely for your kids' room. A pack and play or foldable playpen. Like I said, we pretty much are. I think it's going to live in the car from now on. Bring that for your little ones to sleep in, and also just so that they have, like, a contained play space. So I primarily only use the playpen for Luca for sleeping, but if I needed to, I could pull it out into the living room, throw some toys in it, and then he could play in there. But I mean, truthfully speaking, this Airbnb, since it was newer, is actually, like, ideal for kids because there's, like, no decor. So there's really nothing for him to mess around with, which is awesome. So he can just, like, crawl around and do whatever, and it's great. They had, like, a two-step folding, step stool that one of the kids found. Talia pulled it out of the closet when she saw it, and she's been using it in the kitchen because she likes to help cook and like do some of her like banana unpeeling and like putting things in snack bags. So she pulled that out for herself to use, and then Luca just thinks it's great. He thinks it's like a kid's walking toy. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever, have at her. He just pushes that thing across the floor, and he's happy as a clam. I'm like, cool, love it. That's great. But some toys for your kids to play with, definitely great. We've got a lot of like drawing supplies for the girls. And like, I think entertainment stuff is pretty standard. If you're traveling with kids, you should know to bring that. But I would not have thought about blackout curtains. And I probably also wouldn't really have thought to bring the sound machine with us. We used it a little bit, but not a lot. It's kind of 50-50 on if the kids end up needing it at bedtime. But it's better to have it, like, it's pretty tiny, it's battery operated, so it's really easy for us to bring with us. I'm glad that we have it in case we need it rather than not having it. Like, if this was a year ago that we were doing this, 100% that thing was on all night, every night. Like, the kids required it for sleep, but they're getting a little bit older now, and they're starting to sleep better, which is beautiful, and we don't need it as much, but that's definitely something else that you should bring. Soothers and all of that, like standard operating childcare procedures, definitely bring those. But those were like the unthought of things that I had to like go back and get from my parents. So the blackout curtains, the sound machine. We had the high chair with us already, but baby gates I had to purchase. And then, like I said, lots of snacks and things. So those are some of my pro tips for if you're staying at a motel and or Airbnb, and kind of giving you the pros and cons of either, depending on how long you're staying at a motel. Sometimes Airbnbs are actually a little bit cheaper. For me, I find them more functional. There's laundry here, there's a kitchen here. It's more similar to day-to-day life. Like if we were to go on a vacation again, there's 100% no way I'm staying in the hotel, cheaper or not. It's just not functional. And like I said, unless it was a suite, I haven't tried that yet, but I would not stay in a motel with our family, but I 100% would take them to an Airbnb again. And now I have a very clear checklist of the things that they need to bring with us. So it would also make packing a lot easier. And it would just make our trip experience more fun if we were actually on a true vacation and not a we have no house to live in staycation. Yeah, but if you have any questions or if you have any other tips of things that I forgot, definitely send me a message on Instagram after you listen to this episode, and I can always add an amendment later, or maybe I'll do a second episode talking about actually traveling with kids, which I would love to do. It's like I follow a lot of travel influencers on Instagram, and they're like taking their kids on airplanes and sharing all the best practices about that stuff. Apparently, duct tape for the win there, guys. Um, and learning a lot about like high chair or not high chair, but like booster seat requirements and things like that for airplanes, and just like mentally making a checklist of all the things that we would need for that point in time when, not if, when we actually get to take the kids on an airplane to go somewhere other than an Airbnb in St. Thomas. Actually, we really haven't traveled with the kids anywhere. The cottage. Yeah, the cottage last summer was like pretty much the only trip we've ever taken with the kids. And that was to a family cottage up in, I want to say Muskoka, but that's not the right place. I'm not gonna remember it now anyway. Yeah, but like still in Ontario. Very, very like not travel-y. We have not traveled. My last trip, I guess, would have been when I went to Texas 2 summers ago, and that was technically a work conference, so it wasn't even a vacation. My last actual vacation, actually, that was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane too, actually, when I went to Texas, which was pretty wild to think about. I was like 27 before I got on an airplane. My actual, like, actual vacation, 'cause I don't count going to my parents' trailer in the summer, probably would have been when we went on a cruise in grade 11, maybe grade 12. So, like, I was in high school the last time I went on vacation, guys. We are long overdue for that. Grayson and I kinda jumped immediately from new relationship to purchasing house to major house renovations to, "Oh my goodness, you're unexpectedly pregnant." So there really wasn't a lot of time for traveling in that timeline. Or I definitely would have before having children, because it's a whole other beast traveling with kids, and it's also a lot more expensive, go figure. But those are my tips for Airbnb staying and or motel living. I hope that you found this episode helpful. If there's other personal mom-related topics that you would like me to have on the podcast, please just let me know, because I'm always happy to talk about it. I just never know what you want to hear. So I just talked about business. Anyway, we will see you guys all next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media, and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller's socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.